Hey guys, welcome to Chapatulas Chapel. We're here because we're interested in ministry. In this video, I want to focus on the different socioeconomic classes in our community. I interview Carl Johnson and Greg Robinson, both of whom are members of Chapatulas Chapel. I'm going to ask them a series of questions. Enjoy the video. All right, Mr. Carl, thank you for joining me and giving me some of your time here. We're going to jump into the first question, and I just want you to be able to tell me about yourself, your childhood, and how was your childhood, what was the community like, and how God was working through you, and to this point to where you are now.
Okay. I was saying I was born in the reserve, a place they call Cone Land. And that's why when I was working at Consto, I did have other people around me that was talking about the gospel. Had a real nice lady named Linnell Clark, and she says, "Carl, you're not baptized?" I remember her saying that. I said, and I was kind of ashamed to say no. She said, "You not." I started that we had a new pastor come in town. The older pastor did not die. He wasn't dead, but he was too old to preach now. He's real old.
Yeah.
And so I was introduced to a pastor they called one Sunday. I went to the fellowship, and I was introduced to a pastor named. I heard about him too, just like I heard the same way I heard about your dad. So I said I was curious. I said, I'm going to that fellowship, and I went. And my wife came up and for a candidate for baptism, and I came after, and I wanted to be in there, but I didn't want to be. My mama told me, don't get in that circle here. I guess the mean same as clique.
Right.
So I got in there, I started doing things. I even cut grass around and anything. But some of them jobs I ended up doing all that by myself.
Right.
Everybody abandoned me, but they wanted things done.
Yeah. And now, throughout your life, how do you feel God has been communicating to you or directing your steps?
It was like, can I use a comparison like Moses, or like the call of Moses? I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to get caught up. And I heard my mama singing songs at the and she'd tell me something. You wouldn't have to. You don't believe Jesus died because at the cross? Mom, that ain't true. But I couldn't.
Right.
But she did live long enough to see me when I baptized, Daddy too. And she used to call me Deacon Fry. And then the other cats around the home, they start calling me Reverend Ike. I said, what they think of the name? So, and then later on, as we started studying with this Pastor White, Alexander White.
This Pastor White, what was different about him than the other pastors that you encountered?
He was a different fella. He was easy to talk to. He wasn't confrontational.
Right.
And he didn't come as like he owned anything. Mom didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
So anyway, as time went on, we got baptized, and both me and my wife and had the son, because I was living in Reserve at the time. We moved from Mighty River in Reserve, and down to 24th Street, just moved out of the house down there, and so we started going, and the people around us was older people than they accept now. I used to like to go to. I said to myself one time, I'm never going to no prayer meeting.
Because one of the questions was, how do you view your pastor's background? Now, Pastor White that you were talking about, you said he wasn't from here.
He wasn't from here.
So do you think his background played a way into relating to you, or do you feel like when you go to church, you're mainly concerned about what the pastor's saying as opposed to where he's been?
I want to know what he was saying. That's what his words. The word that's spoken is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And because most of the time you hear Pastor say by his word.
How does that?
That's the one I had to kind of talk to people about sometimes.
And how do you feel like? How does it relate to you? But also, how do you feel like it's relevant to our community in Missouri?
Yeah, because Because when we think about wealth, that's another word, wealth. It ain't just money.
Right.
I mean, God bless us with a lot of things, not just with the finance. And He bless us with a place to come and worship. You can come with money.
Right.
I know this fellowship, you can come with money, without money. Nobody don't beat you in the ground for money. This was the first blessing I got when I came here. Other places, I've been in ministry where they tell you give till you hurt.
Yes,
you had.
That's terrible.
This was worse. This is one of the first and when I go visit the places, now it's time to give.
Mm-hmm.
And people walking in, I see people at the collection thing, they get the change for a quarter or a dime for collection.
Right.
I'm glad that don't happen here.
Why do you feel like people in the community in Reserve, why do they still go to those churches and endure that type of abuse?
Because
is it tradition?
It's maybe both tradition and the sense that one time somebody told me, says, my mama built that church, and my mama been to that church, and nobody ain't gonna put me out. I'm gonna sit on them, even though they won't be there, they're gonna stay there. Mm-hmm. But this man had great wealth.
I see. Yeah.
He had great. Mm-hmm. But Jesus wasn't telling them go broke.
Yeah.
I don't think He was telling them go completely broke.
Mm-hmm. Right,
He was telling them, sell what you got and follow me. But he was gonna have whatever business he was running. He may have. You see, he had great wealth. So what's it to give a few dollars? Cause
you kind of touched on this earlier, but how does your church approach the different class systems within the Reserve community, and how do you feel about their approach?
The church really don't do so much with the class system. I don't never see it. I didn't see it. I haven't seen it since then. But I know one thing. This church got when we welcome, this is one of the better churches that I've been in.
No, when I was talking about how the church approaches class systems, like I said, you have people who might be from prison, just getting out, or you might have professionals, or you might have, a single mother here, those types of things.
I see this.
Everybody feels welcome.
I see everybody being welcome.
That's
I don't
good.
see no different because, and then the pastor don't allow. You don't have the big chair,
right,
and the little chair,
right,
and the this and the and very. I don't see it.
Yeah,
I just don't.
good.
I see that then they come and take their seat. There's nobody get priority or nobody get nobody takes it's all the same.
Right.
Each Sunday.
Right.
So
do you feel like that approach would be effective in getting more people from the community?
Yeah, if they come, they'll be welcome just like everybody else. And many of people who I didn't invite over because they say they didn't have the time. We start too late. They didn't came and they ain't never left.
Right.
I invite a few people. One of my cousins and the other one. Matter of fact, all of them almost came, and they didn't came, and I didn't have to come and ring no bell. Say I brought this in. I brought this in.
So you pretty much would say is that when people come to church, in your experience, and especially in being in Reserve, the community here, they're not concerned about where the pastor came from. They're more concerned about the pastor.
No, they never, nobody asked me, well, if they did, if very few people, where is he from? I say, Port Allen. I say, And so one time I had your mom and him come home, and I said, he come from that little town of Port Allen, which I ain't never been there. I ain't never been to Port Allen. Don't even know what Port Allen. They said, where you come from? Little sugar cane field But this was all feel the same way.
Right, but do you feel like that helps kind of relate to him in the sense?
It don't, in a sense, but it seems like it don't.
It's not really important.
It's not.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Cole. All right, Mr. Greg Robinson, how you doing, sir?
Mr. Morgan,
I'm doing all right. So I'm just going to go through a few questions with you, about our community here in Reserve. And why don't we start off with just tell us about yourself.
My grandparents were very heavy in church. My mother, she worked a lot.
Okay.
And also, like my mother worked a lot. I had an older sister there, and she did things there and all. And we all had that popping that 2-bedroom house, and later on we moved to a 3-bedroom house.
Okay.
We stayed in an apartment because my sister just moved back in. She had 3 kids of her own.
Okay.
So had to treat them like we treat everybody else, like my siblings and my nieces and nephews, but they still had respect for me because I taught them how to get ready, clothes ready for school and how to prepare themselves, and they go to laundromat because our wash machine broke. We had to go to laundromat, dude. And we had to have so many clothes. We had to go late at night. I had to wash dishes. I had to learn how to cook, mop floors. You name it, I did it, buddy.
Wow.
And
how do you feel like that childhood? How do you feel like it influenced you as far as ministry is concerned? In your everyday life.
How it influenced me really, like I said, I always was in the church. At a young age, my grandmother, she went to church every time the doors opened. And I was able to go with her, and we met friends there and everything, and all that kind of stuff, and that governed me being in the church.
Do you feel like in your background allowed you to relate to the people here in Reserve?
Right.
Because of how you grew up.
Right.
Especially with young men, probably.
Yeah, I seen a lot of things. Cause like as I got older and everything, I realized, then I got more mature. Like I said, you learn as you grow, and all that. Everything what it could have to be. People make it seem that way, but once you learn and experience and go through yourself, you like, they must have been not telling the truth because I'm a man. I'm that age now, and I don't see all this thing they do. They must have told a fib on themselves, I stretch the truth or something because I don't experience that,
Okay. And how do you, because of your background, how do you feel about your pastor's background? Do you feel like your pastor's background matters, for instance? Does it matter that he came from a rural setting himself? Let's say if he didn't come from a rural setting, do you think you would be able to still relate to him?
Yeah, because of, like I say, I've learned to accept people who they are, like I say, he's from a rural area. And my main concern is speaking about the pastors is biblical. He's coming out that Bible and things like that, saying things like that, about the Bible. That's my first and foremost concerns me. Is that anything else, his personal life, I want nothing to do with that, because God is in control of all that, and God knows all that, and everything. So.
All right, so Mr. Greg, how does your reality right now, how does that influence your openness to ministry from those who are different? If a Buddhist or a Muslim, would you, if they want to tell you about their religion, are you even open to even hearing, or would you go to a mosque with them, or would you feel like, just to cultivate a relationship by sharing each other's perspectives on religion?
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I think somewhere in the Bible tell you about you can go and test the spirits or go to and everything, just know what your belief is, how strong you are in your belief. Because, like I said, a lot of people in the day's time, they was born into that religion, things like that. But I was baptized into mine, and I learned mine and everything, which I believe in, basically believe in God. Like some people believe in Buddhism, and things like that, But like I said, they probably the same way, But I know we come from the Holy Bible,
Right.
And listen, I know a lot about the Bible, so I do believe the Bible says something about testing the spirit of church, to go to other churches and visit them and things like that, but you still got to know where your heart. And I feel like if I have a question, I would ask someone, ask them to show it to me in the Bible, and everything, because of, like I know how the Holy Bible is written by inspired people and things, men, things of that nature. My point of view is that church doing wonderful, because I worked in the field with them as our food ministry. I forgot what they call it, LC meals. We do that, and once a month I go out there. We knock on everybody's doors. Some of them even come to the church and pick their meals up, and people be very glad. And like I said, we're a small congregation here, but we have some of the professionals here, and some that's poor or what have you, or less profit than others, but everybody's treated equal. And that's with love, respect, and dignity. That's what I see.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Greg, for your time.
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.